Welcome to Wesley Impact. I'm Keith Garner. How important is it to remain current and relevant to the people that you're wanting to make a connection with? Once again, thank you for sharing Wesley Impact today. If you're a regular watcher and if you're new, I hope you enjoy the show. At Wesley Mission, we've been working with people who are homeless since the very early days, over 200 years ago. At times, things have changed. The circumstances which lead to someone becoming homeless have certainly changed in that time. And the services that we have to provide change as well. Now, I'd like to say that at Wesley Mission, we don't define people by their vocations, their circumstances. We seek to meet their presenting and immediate need as a starting point on a journey of finding meaning and purpose. One way we meet the needs of the homeless as we come into contact with them in the Wesley Centre is through Wesley Connect. Now, this is an area of work where we open our doors and offer food, goods, anything else that comes our way to help people who are homeless. Very often it's through food and friendship, but sometimes it's through other things that we might provide and the connection that we might make with our services across Wesley Mission. We'll see more of this in a few moments. I'll be sharing some further thoughts from Hebrews. Today we're in chapter 9, and we have this ongoing comparison between Jesus Christ and Old Testament religion. And today I'd like to play a shorter segment than the whole of the Man of Galilee, but not a small segment, one you'll really enjoy, a part of that documentary series which we released earlier this year. We'll screen the entire series starting next week here on Wesley Impact. So I thought we'd have a little look today. And Craig Gower will sing an appropriate song, one he sang when we launched the DVD, Stranger of Galilee. First, let's take a look at this piece that we've prepared in relation to Wesley Connect.
Wesley Connect Food and Care is part of Wesley Mission, and it's our food and care ministry. It's important for us all here at Wesley Connect Food and Care to treat every single person with dignity and value and kindness. Very often they are people in life crisis situations, maybe facing homelessness. They could be financially very hard up. We see a lot of people with a lot of family issues. So we're in here to listen. We give the practical help of food. We can link to other services. And I think what makes Wesley Connect Food and Care unique is our emphasis is on care. The tangible ways that Wesley Connect are able to help is emergency food relief. That's very important for a lot of people who find themselves with hardly any money to buy their weekly shopping or to survive even for one day. So what we can provide is something as simple as a day pack for somebody who may be sleeping rough or homeless, right through to 3 or 4 days groceries to actually help a family or a single person or maybe somebody doing it tough. The people that volunteer here really do have a heart for helping people. It's a real gift.
I wanted to do something, and the very last thing I wanted to do was work with homeless people. And this is where I am. It's humbling. You realise how slippery that slope is into homelessness. Volunteering in Wesley Connect has been amazing. I have grown so much as an individual, as a Christian. It's not easy, but it's so worthwhile.
I think I've been volunteering 2 years. I'd been here prior to that time, just over 30 years as an employee. I thought when I retired, I'd go straight overseas. But I felt if I went overseas, I probably wouldn't go back to Wesley Mission, and I love Wesley Mission. So I get a lot of satisfaction. I feel I'm still useful. I like to hear them when they come back and say, look, I love to come back here because I feel I'm welcome. It's a wonderful feeling knowing, well, I've changed somebody's life. Yeah. I've made it easier for them.
Wesley Connect Food and Care rely on donations of food. The items of food that we're most after: long life milk, tins of tuna, tins of meat, fruit, tinned vegetables, and always tea, coffee, and cereals and pasta. And what we do, we put it all in our food store, and then we're able to give that back out to those in need.
If you would like to learn more about Wesley Mission, visit wesleymission.org.au. You can find help in our community services, connect with our church and congregations, discover a volunteer role that suits you, stay up to date on the latest news and information, donate to support our work, and help make a positive difference in your community. You can also connect with us on social media and subscribe to receive the latest news and information about Wesley Mission directly into your inbox. Visit wesleymission.org.au.
I don't feel safe in this house. It's not our home. The people here are scary. I'm worried something bad will happen. That's why I'm hiding here with my mum and my little sister. They're scared too. We don't want to stay, but Mum says there's nowhere else to go. If we leave, we have to sleep outside. I just want to run away.
In New South Wales, 18% of people experiencing homelessness are children. Your donation of $49 can help give children like Liam and Mia a safe place to sleep and keep them off the streets. Because children should not run away, children should run and play. Please donate now at wesleymission.org.au.
So don't hesitate to be in touch. If you want to find out more about our work here at Wesley Mission, or if we can be of help to you in any way at all, our website and email address are on the screen now. Earlier this year, we released a documentary series of 6 episodes called The Man of Galilee. I'll run the whole entire series starting next week here on Wesley Impact. But today, I'd like to show a short excerpt from episode 4 actually, in the series, where we look at how Jesus spoke to others, including his disciples, his followers, his adversaries, and also to his Father. Let's take a look now. When Jesus spoke to his disciples, whether alone, such as here in Caesarea Philippi, or in a public setting, he gave some of his most profound teaching, continually providing purpose, establishing meaning, and bringing a new way of thinking, indeed a new way of living. Now, there are ways in which Jesus spoke to the group of disciples that varied in approach. There were times when he had to be direct. They didn't always get what he was about. In fact, on one occasion, children wanted to get to Jesus, and the disciples were keeping them away. And we have that lovely old English word where Jesus says, suffer the little children. In other words, encourage the little children to come to me. Don't keep them away, because to them belongs the kingdom of God. And then there were other occasions when people had needs, physical needs, when they were crying out for help to the one who was the Son of David, the Messiah. They were looking for healing. And again, Jesus had to say to the disciples, just let them come. Don't keep them away. And there were times when Jesus had to be patient while seeking to equip and teach his disciples. He was all too aware that he was addressing 12 very different individuals, and that each would respond in their own unique way to his life and teaching. Jesus had a unique way of speaking to his disciples as both a leader and a friend, stepping in when needed to bring correction or teaching, and encouraging them to trust in him in real life situations. After the experience at Caesarea Philippi, where Peter confessed that Jesus is the Messiah, he and the disciples were making their way back to the Galilee, where he continues to prepare the disciples for the things to come. He says to them, those who want to be my disciples must be prepared to take up their cross and follow me. And then he goes on to say something that perhaps would again be difficult to hear, but it's a profound part of Christian teaching. He says that we sometimes have to discover that to save life, we have to be prepared to lose it. And then says, what good is it if you gain the whole world, if you gain everything that the world has to offer and lose your soul? While he was alone with the disciples, such as here at Caesarea Philippi or on the mountainside at the Transfiguration, he shared about the purpose of his life with a small inner circle of disciples, Peter, James and John, and gave them closer insight into his unique role in God's purposes. He sought to equip the disciples and impart a new approach to their lives and ministry. And he was sharing God's purpose for his and their lives, preparing them for what lay ahead. But this was not exclusive to his disciples. Jesus would speak to different groups of people in different ways. He spoke to his adversaries by quoting scripture and addressing the heart of an issue. He spoke to his disciples as a leader and as a friend, helping them to understand his own mission so that they could play their part in it. And on at least 2 occasions, Jesus goes into the home of his friends, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. The story of Mary and Martha is an important one. That cameo in Luke's Gospel shows us that at their home, along with Lazarus, he probably spent time when he was passing that way. And it was an important stopping off point as he prepared to enter the city for the final conflict at the end of his life. It's also important to know that he was criticised too for the kind of relationships he had with people. They said he ate and he drank with sinners. I mean, what a dreadful title to just roll off the tongue, but it's a clear way in which his relationships were being viewed by other people. But what is it about his relationship at a personal level that made all the difference? Well, I think there was a naturalness about it. Jesus didn't have to force himself upon people. There was a naturalness. And out of that naturalness, it enabled him to say things that perhaps couldn't have ever been said in any other way. In John's Gospel, Jesus comforts Mary and Martha after the death of their brother Lazarus. He reassures them that everything will be all right and asked to be taken to the tomb as any friend would. In this interaction, before raising Lazarus to life, Jesus shows empathy and speaks in a way that is both personal and caring. Through his actions and words, he encourages Mary, Martha, and all present to see Jesus Christ as the Messiah and to trust in him. I hope you enjoyed watching that short clip from the series The Man of Galilee. We enjoyed filming in the Galilee, in the region of the Holy Land, and have released it on DVD with a study guide, which can be useful for personal reflection and also small group settings. The series is available for purchase on the website now. We'll run the entire series of 6 episodes next week, so keep an eye out for that. Look, there are many stories I could tell you way beyond what you see even on the film. I mean, on one occasion at Bethsaida, we were filming. That was a place where some of the key disciples came from and were called from. And, you know, I was walking along. We do something that you often have to do when you're making a film, and that's either noddies or walking, just so that it can be put together properly. And I was doing exactly one of those on my own, walking along. And would you believe it, a huge snake, I'm talking about a huge one, came from behind a rock and moved along. And when I shouted that this snake was there, the whole recording band, all the group that were with me, they're all moving around, all these brave Aussies were all staying far enough away to let me have to tackle the situation, I'm telling you. And it was a really long snake, black, shiny snake. And when we looked it up later that night, we found out it was very venomous. So that was really a hair-raising moment. Well, let me get away from that now. And please welcome now Craig Gower from the Wesley Impact Band to sing an appropriate song. It's one of my favourite old hymns that relate to the Galilee, The Stranger of Galilee.
In fancy I stood by the shore one day of the beautiful murmuring sea. I saw the great crowds as they thronged the way of the stranger of Galilee. I saw how the man who was blind from birth in a moment was made to see. The lame was made whole by the matchless skill of the stranger of Galilee. And I felt I could love him forever, so gracious and tender was he. I claimed him that day as my Savior, this stranger of Galilee. Come ye who are driven and tempest-tossed, and his gracious salvation see. He'll quiet life's storms with his peace, be still, this stranger of Galilee. And he bids me to go and the story tell, what he ever to you will be. And if only you let him with you abide, this stranger of Galilee. Oh, my friend, won't you love him forever? So gracious and tender is he. Accept him this day as your Savior, this stranger of Galilee.
Experience the Galilee and the towns and cities where Jesus was raised and called his home. Capernaum, Nazareth, Tabgha, Magdala, Caesarea Philippi, Bethsaida, Tiberias, and of course the Sea of Galilee all feature in this 6-part series as Keith Garner explains the first century context of biblical events.
Jesus was born during a time of change in the political and economic leadership of this region. Fishermen around a lakeside was really one of the big businesses. Why Jesus? Why didn't people ignore him? Why did they take him seriously? And what are the questions we should be asking today if we're going to take Jesus seriously?
The Man of Galilee is available now and comes with a study guide for leaders, small groups and individuals. For more, visit wesleymission.org.au.
So I'm reading from Hebrews chapter 9, verses 11 through to 14. But when Christ came as high priest of the good things that are now already here, he went through the greater and more perfect tabernacle, that is not made with human hands, that is to say, it is not part of this creation. He did not enter by means of the blood of goats and calves, but he entered the most holy place once for all by his own blood, thus obtaining eternal redemption. The blood of goats and bulls and the ashes of a heifer sprinkled on those who are ceremonially unclean sanctify them so that they're outwardly clean. How much more then will the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself unblemished to God, cleanse our consciousness from acts that lead to death, so that we may serve the living God. So the author of Hebrews continues his exploration of the comparison of the ministry of Jesus with that of the Jewish religion. I want to lift it, if I can, from just a comparison with the Jewish religion to speak of all philosophies, all ways of thinking, as well as all religion. The gift of Christ is the supreme gift of God to human life. in each and every generation. There's an interesting picture of the tent and the holy place. The tent is so important in both the Old Testament and the new place that we have in the New Testament. Paul was a tent maker, and the tent is a description very often of moving from this life to the next. The tent was the way in which this nomadic people moved around during their difficult times. So the tent was important. Jesus Christ is not a part of creation, but the one who brings everything into being. Very important that we don't make that mistake. He's not being created. He is the one who brings creation into being. He offers himself for the world. That gift of Jesus Christ is the ultimate sacrifice. This brings God's work and our salvation to utter completion. So let's look at some of these verses and ask what they have to say to us in our own day as we explore it together. So we read in verse 11 in the passage that I read a little earlier. But when Christ came as high priest of the good things that are already here, he went through the greater and more perfect tabernacle that is not made with human hands. Jesus mediates all that is good in both the past and the future. Everything that's good in the whole of time finds its focus in Jesus Christ. He is not just the Lord of creation who brought everything into being. He's the Lord of creation as it exists, as it will exist into the future. This is the power of the Logos, the Word made flesh. Then in verses 13 to 14, let me read this truth to you too. The blood of goats and bulls and the ashes of a heifer sprinkled on those who are ceremonially unclean sanctify them so that they are outwardly clean. How much more then will the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself unblemished to God, cleanse our consciousness from the acts that lead to death, so that we may serve the living God. He is a new and greatly superior understanding of priesthood. We've looked at this in previous weeks. He is the one who's superior to all others. And for me, those words in verse 14, they are 3 words in our language, but they're so very powerful. How much more? Oh, that tells us we should look over our shoulders of what has gone before, all the things that are before. How much more significant, how much more important, how greater, how superior. This is not superior in that arrogant sense. You know what it is when somebody is acting in a superior way, but he is actually superior. He is the one that is promised. He is the one that brings life. He is the one that makes the difference to the way we might live. And then in verse 14 kind of brings it all together. How much more then will the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself unblemished to God, cleanse our consciences from the acts that lead to death, so that we may serve the living God. That's the purpose of God's gift to us, to enable us to find life, to enable us to know salvation, but most of all, to enable us to enter into that life of God which leads to service of him. David Livingstone, the great missionary to Africa, once said this: I never made a sacrifice. We ought not to talk of sacrifice when we remember the great sacrifice which he made, who left his Father's throne on high to give himself for us. I never made a sacrifice, said Livingstone, a man who gave up so much to go to other parts of the world to offer the gospel. I never gave a sacrifice, because he compared what he did, what he was, what he gave to the great gift which God gives to us in Christ. He offers you and me real life, life in all its fullness.
If you would like to contact Keith and find out more about today's program, write to us at Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A5555, Sydney South 1235, or you can send us an email to impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. On our website, you can catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact, find out more about our work, read online magazines and articles, and connect with us on social media. You can also connect through Keith's blog and stay up to date on all the latest news and information from Wesley Mission. wesleymission.org.au.
Thank you for being with me today. I hope you enjoyed the segment from Man of Galilee and found some of those thoughts on the passage from Hebrews. A bit tough, but not really when you see it in the light of the superiority of Jesus Christ over all things. You can watch past episodes of Wesley Impact on the Wesley Mission website and also contact us about any area of our work. You can write to me. I always enjoy listening to people and hearing from you. The details are on the screen now. Same time next week. Do join us because we'll be running that series, The Man from Galilee. Thanks again for your time. God bless.
Wesley Mission helps people who are experiencing homelessness transition into permanent housing through Wesley Homeless Services. To find out more, visit wesleymission.org.au.